Continuing the tradition, the long tradition, everybody, of I don't know what episode this is, I never check. Podlomatic. I'm very pleased to welcome Miss Sashi, who is an amazing illustrator, multi-talented. If you're listening to this, I'm sure you're already aware of her work. I've had the pleasure of commissioning some illustrations from her for the upcoming Mary Sue, which is pinned on my profile on Twitter if you want to take a look. So yeah, we're just going to talk shop. I want to ask about cultural things. She's just a fascinating woman to get to know, and I hope that we get to share this great conversation with all of you. So if you want to say anything as an introductory, we could just go back to what we were talking about.
Okay, hello.
Right, that's it. So we could just go back to talking like normal. But actually, one of the things I've been super curious to ask about, because I've worked with people in South Africa before. And I don't know. Yeah, I've worked on a game. I could tell you offline. I've been working on a game that's going to be releasing this year, I think. And yeah, but they're clients in South Africa, and he's a really nice guy. But yeah, I know nothing about the history, really. Would you be interested in telling us about South Africa as a country, how it came to be, what it's like there? I'm just so interested.
It's hot in summer.
I'm sorry?
It's hot in summer.
Oh, yeah. But
yeah,
you're pretty far from the equator, right?
Yeah, I'm probably not the best person to ask about the country's history.
No?
No.
Yeah, I've heard, I guess I've heard, well, it's like all that colony stuff, right? Something like that?
Yeah, it's not stuff I like to get into.
Okay. Well, let's see. Well, all right. So
that was terrible off the bat. I'm so sorry.
No. We've already been having. I'm spoiled for whoever is listening. We've been talking for like an hour already. She's such an interesting person, but like, I guess once we start recording, it's kind of like, wait, we've already talked about so much.
Yeah.
So we're cheating, like we have to retell everyone what we've been talking about.
So I think the best thing to say with regards to South Africa is we don't actually have lions walking in the street or hyenas or anything like that. It's pretty normal, I'd say.
Huh.
We drive, we go to shops, we live in apartments. It's pretty normal. No wild animals running around.
It is definitely on my bucket list of places to visit at some point.
Well, people love this place. I mean, especially where I live in Cape Town. It's a very big tourist destination.
Man.
People love it here. It's like, I know we've got our problems as every other country, but people keep coming back.
Yeah. There was an episode, have you ever heard of a show called Top Gear?
Yes.
It's one of my wife's favorite shows, and she was showing me an episode where they were visiting salt flats. I don't know if it wasn't South Africa, it was a neighboring country.
Right.
I'm not even going to try to say the name of it. But yeah, I was thinking like, wow, what interesting geography that I just can't see that around here. I live in the New York area, which is kind of lots of mountains and trees, that sort of thing. And you have to go pretty far to get anything different.
Yeah. Well, I'm right next to Table Mountain. That's where I live.
Have you lived there all your life?
No, I've moved here in 2009. Was work transfer. So I came from, I want to say Joburg. I worked in Joburg. I lived in Gauteng, Centurion. But I was born in Durban. That's on the coast.
And that's all South Africa. Forgive me, I'm not familiar with some of those.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Yeah, culturally speaking, from what I remember, I know it's a very multinational, like a lot of different people from different countries are all living there at the same time.
That's why we're known as the Rainbow Nation.
Yeah.
Because of that. Yeah.
And it's so, I don't know, I'm not to be a nerd or anything. I find history fascinating, but
yeah. So
you were born and raised there, and I guess I ask about that because I'm always curious to learn about an artist's background. As a developing artist, what were you exposed to, say, when you were young? What got you interested in drawing?
Animation, like Disney movies, Tom and Jerry, that kind of stuff. That's actually cool. It's like when I was a little kid, I mean, really tiny. I wasn't even in school yet. It's like I knew what I wanted to do when I was an adult. I knew I wanted to make cartoons.
From a young
And then I
age.
went to, I was tiny, so I don't even think I was in school yet. And I knew what I wanted to do.
Okay.
When I was in school, I would get asked the same thing. It's like, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to make cartoons. It's like, you'll change your mind when you get older. I always got that. Maybe you'll want to become a teacher or
I
something
know.
else.
I hate that.
The worst part for me, though, was that, so I was very adamant on becoming an animator. But at the time, we didn't have any animation schools, any animation courses, or anything here. So I had to teach myself. I was lucky enough to find other people that were actually doing 2D animation. Because here's the thing, I wanted to do hand-drawn animation, not 3D animation, hand-drawn.
Yeah.
And finding anyone who did that was near impossible, but I found them. So I worked under, I think it was like 2 different artists that did traditional, still on paper, hand animation. And I pretty much learned that way. So, bought books, taught myself.
Did you have access to internet back then to do research?
In the beginning, no. No, it was just
Books.
experience in books. And then eventually, I'm just trying to think, because this was in 1999, I think, 1999. That's when I actually started working. I started as a cleanup artist, cleaning up thousands and thousands of drawings. It was a lot of fun, but it taught me a lot. So I think maybe because of that, I still don't like, I want to say cleanup or inking at this point, but yeah, that's just something that you have to do. But yeah, eventually I started finding like stuff on the internet, but it was mostly like through books and just being self-taught and practice.
What were the duties of a cleanup artist? So for anyone who doesn't know, do you take someone's frames in pencil and clean up the lines, or do you go over them?
Yeah, so I mean, it's basically like I want to say kind of like you do an illustration. Well, let's say with comics, it's like the inking process.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that. So you take a rough frame, you put it in a light box, then you take another piece of paper, put it on top of that, and then draw smooth lines over that.
Oh.
But so I know people often refer to it as inking. I'm talking about like with comics and even like illustration. I still call it cleanup because that's what I'm accustomed to. But I'm trying to think. So at some point I did, and when I actually got I want to say a permanent job, because I would bounce from different companies depending on the work. You go where the work is. Transition to digital. So I've worked with a lot of different types of software. On a Wacom tablet, and I want to say digital is, so I mean the process is still the same, except it's just in digital software, so on a computer now. So that's probably the only difference.
I'm writing down notes, by the way, if anyone hears me typing. One of the things I've been struggling with throughout my whole career is digital versus traditional. Do you have a preference?
It depends. That's the thing. So, yeah, okay, all my animation now is digital, and it's all still very traditional, frame by frame. So I use TV Paint because I know that like vector-based software is quite popular, but I still do frame by frame TV Paint. They've made it in such a way so that it still works exactly the same as in paper. But as far as just like sketching and drawing, it really depends. Sometimes I still prefer drawing on paper. I'll sketch on paper and then I'll scan it in and then work from that. Sometimes I work straight digitally. It just depends. Sometimes one works better than the other. If I'm struggling with digital, I'll go to paper. Go back and forth like that.
Yeah, I've been having that similar experience where for the latest book, I'm trying to make it so that the process, like people wouldn't be able to tell when I switch between, say, a scanned pencil drawing versus a tablet sketch. And I guess I've always worked with pencil, so I guess I just prefer it. But I need to be able to zoom out and zoom in, just move the paper closer to me, make little micro changes. And there's something about the texture of pencil. It just feels alive. I don't like the feeling of drawing on a tablet. I do because I have to, but it just doesn't feel good to me.
What would you use? Because I'm on a Wacom tablet. latest
Uh,
one.
let me look at it. It's
Oh,
also a Wacom tablet. Intuos 5, the big one, the big fat one.
the one. Yeah, mine's the Intuos Pro. I think
Do
that's
you use
just
a big one or something smaller?
no, it's big. It's not as big, but it's the same surface area to work on.
Right, that's important. For anyone
Yeah.
listening, did you start with a small one, a
No,
small
I
tablet?
always started with. I think I started with Intuos 2. I think.
Okay.
I've always worked on a large surface.
So
I
it's the
have
same ratio as your
used.
monitor.
Yes, yes. I have worked with like the little A5 ones. I think it's A5. It's not easy. It's very
No.
strange.
How do I put this? If I make a drawing on that small tablet that's an inch long, then it'll be 3 inches on my screen. And
Yeah,
that causes all kinds of problems if you're trying to draw very realistic or anything that you're trying to draw. There's a conversion process, and it
yeah,
messes up your muscle memory, I think.
yeah.
I've been
But
flirting with the idea of buying what do you call it, the screen tablet.
yeah, so I've been thinking of just getting myself an iPad Pro. It's just so darn expensive. Um,
Yeah.
because I like sketching, but I don't want to sit at my PC to sketch. I just want to sit,
Yeah,
like
sit
on the
on the
sofa in
couch.
front of the TV, exactly, and then just sketch. So that's on my to-do list at some point.
Yeah, me too.
Otherwise I should sketch on paper. I've got so many sketches, so many sketches. It's
Sketchbooks and
ridiculous.
such.
No, I'm lazy. I find it difficult to commit to a book because I know I'm going to tear it out and throw it away. So
Do you
I
ever
have commitment
share your
issues.
unfinished? I've seen a lot of your finished illustrations, but do you share your
I,
sketches
har-
around?
I hardly do because I need to scan them in and I'm lazy. That's pretty much it.
That's the problem.
So, but I was like this when I was young as well. It's like I'd sketch a lot, but not show anyone. Like just
Yeah,
sketch for myself.
there's a certain embarrassment as the artist, but I can testify that whenever I see any other artist's sketches, I am so in love with them.
Yeah.
It's such a bizarre feeling.
I think for me, what it is like, I want to say, let's say with like illustration, even with animation, is that it's like I always find my roughs look so much better than the final product.
Yeah.
There's just something in loose lines, and like the character just looks so much more alive. And then when you clean it up, it's like the lines are pretty, but something kind of gets lost along the way.
Yeah, maybe I've always thought that maybe that's the reason digital art doesn't speak to a lot of people in the same way that physical art or physical
It
media.
could. That's yeah. I didn't even think about it. That's very
Like
well put,
when
yeah.
I go to a museum, I think a human hand touched this, and I
Yeah.
know what it's like to move paint around and how hard it is. But then when I see an illustration from digital, I'm just like, oh, the computer did it. I don't know how that happened.
Yeah, yeah. It's
I,
it's pretty. It's like
it looks
it's
nice, yeah,
probably fancy brushes and
but yeah, my
everything.
hand doesn't tingle.
Yeah,
Maybe that's what it is. I still go to museums once in a while to sort of
yeah,
it's like going to church. I'm absorbing the energy in the room.
yeah,
And
yeah. Yeah, but there's just something about rough like sketches and stuff and
yeah,
just that. That's always my favorite as well. It's like the finished products are nice, but the like process drawings, those are usually the best.
I agree. That gives me a lot of pleasure. I don't do it
Yeah,
anymore. But again, a lot of us artists are all scattered throughout the world. But the
yeah,
few times when we go to conventions and meet each other, the first thing I want to do is go through their sketchbook.
yeah. Yeah, I'd have to probably ring bind all my stuff. It's like I've kept everything because when I was very young, my dad was always very adamant that I never throw anything away. So I've still got sketches I did from when I was like 8, 9 years old.
That's great.
I think one of the I'm sure my dad still has a phone directory, where you write people's names and numbers, and that I must have been like 2 or 3 years old. I drew all over that thing.
Oh
Yeah,
man,
I'm sure my dad still got it.
I would do the same thing.
Yeah,
My nephews and
yeah,
my nieces, whenever they draw
yeah,
stuff, I keep all of it. I have a binder full of that stuff. But
yeah,
but that's the thing. I think as the artist, we just get embarrassed. But I don't think people know how much pleasure, like, I get so much, even from like a sketch from my wife or something like that that she'll do
Yeah.
at work. I keep all of those. I just treasure it. I can't explain why. It just feels so.
Yeah.
It feels sacred.
But I
But
think it's also, it's like for me, I'm my own worst critic, and I'm very judgmental of my own work,
yeah,
and everything I do is not good enough. So there's that.
there's there's a lot to talk about there actually. Being, how do I put it? I guess once we start taking our own art seriously, and then we're always comparing ourselves to other artists, perhaps is
And
that
it's so easy to do that now because there's of the internet and there's so much
yeah.
there.
I
Yeah.
look at, I mean, even something as simple as brush strokes. Like, I work in Photoshop most of the time, and I've
Yeah.
seen that Clip Studio Paint has really, really powerful brushes. The way that they move pixels around and blend colors these are things I can't seem to get Photoshop to do. And
Yeah, well, I haven't even really gotten Clip Studio to do that well. Mind you, I used to draw like back in the day. I used to draw a lot in what was it, Coral
Coral
Painter.
Painter, yeah.
Yeah, so I've actually got that. I don't use it that much, but that's the thing. It's like, so sometimes I jump between Coral Painter and Clip Studio depending on what I'm trying to achieve, because sometimes I find cleanup in Painter, the tools in there, I find cleanup easier to use. It just feels better than in Clip Studio. So it just depends, at the time how I'm feeling, what works, what doesn't work. So I'll flip flop between the two.
What's your process like from start to finish? You mentioned cleanup as an important phase. I actually hate cleanup the most. I try
Me
to
too.
I try
Me
to skip
too.
it.
I
All right,
hate it.
so,
I hate it so much. I wish someone else would do it for me.
I
It's like
know.
I wish. So it's like with animation. So a lot of jobs with that I've done, I've been fortunate enough that I only do the rough animation. So I do like with the key, I do the keys, I do the breakdowns, I do the tweens, I do all the animation, but just the roughs. And then I can give that to someone else,
All the
and
fun
they can
stuff.
struggle. They can struggle with cleanup. It's like,
Nice.
okay, not my problem now. Now it's up. Yeah, you can make it look pretty. But I guess my, yeah. So for illustration stuff, I guess it's similar. So, but I've been trying to figure out ways to go faster because sometimes I take way too long on something. And I also find like details and stuff very difficult to draw digitally, and I don't understand why that is. I always keep thinking to myself, I would be so much quicker if I drew this on paper and I inked on paper, even though I've actually never inked on paper before, but I do think it would go quicker. It's like my drawing on paper is just generally quicker. So,
Interesting. Is it
yeah, so,
sorry, is it
sorry.
because of like for me zooming out, zooming in, I do it all the time. I rotate my paper.
Yeah, me too.
Seeing on a screen, like I can do these things on a monitor, but there's something about between hand-eye coordination. My hand has to go down to the tablet, look up at the screen, as opposed to I'm holding this physical thing in front of my face.
Yeah, I also find that, and I don't do it like consciously. It's like I don't realize I'm doing it until my neck starts aching. Is that it's like I'm squinting, even though you zoomed in, but it's like you can only zoom in so much, until
Yeah,
it's just a bunch of pixels.
yeah.
So I tend to like lean into my monitor and drawing, and I'm like, oh, this is very uncomfortable.
One of the things, maybe this is a private question, but have you ever posted a picture of your setup for your monitors and stuff? I'm
No,
always fascinated by how other artists have their desks.
no, I haven't because it's a mess. So,
Okay. Ergonomically speaking, I think it's like I used to have back problems because of the way
yeah,
I would bend over when I would draw on paper. And
yeah,
then I bought a desk where it's adjustable, so I have to stand when I draw sometimes.
uh,
I can also sit, but
yeah,
I noticed I don't have back pain anymore when I stand and draw.
yeah.
But it's not comfortable at all to draw.
Yeah. No, it's fine. It's just like that's what I'm saying. It seems to be like when it comes to like detailing and stuff, and trying to like zoom in and see what I'm doing or
Yeah,
coloring something, but it's like I do it without even thinking.
yeah,
And I think it's also the problem is depending how you look at the monitor, the color changes, and there's all those things to keep in mind.
that's true. I mean, depending even
Yeah.
on if you're in a room with the lights on or off, it changes the
Yep.
colors.
Yeah.
It's kind of
And
strange.
depending, yeah, on your eye level as well, where on the monitor you're actually looking.
Yeah, you have to either be perfectly centered on your screen, or if you
Yeah,
stand up, the colors are different. There's
exactly.
yeah
It's so
problems like
annoying.
calibration.
Yeah.
Even when I was recently printing some of your posters to send off to people, and I'll talk about that later, is I needed to get the colors right. And I'm staring at my
Right.
monitor and I'm staring at the print and I'm like, wait, the colors are just a little wrong. And I know it's the printer's fault. And there's so many, but on a piece of paper, what you see is what you get.
Yeah.
It's
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
it's yeah, a very strange profession. I call it craft, or like a crafts person these days. Like,
Yes.
um,
Yeah. So what I usually do is like I'll sketch and I sketch some ideas out, and I'll take that sketch, I'll resketch over it. I'll probably do like 2 or 3 passes over that as before I do final cleanup, because I've learned that if I try and go from a very rough sketch to final cleanup, it just ends up a big mess, and I take very long cleaning up then.
uh-huh.
Um, so basically I need to try and refine it as much as possible before, getting all the details and little things in before I actually get to the final ink lines. And that's the other thing. It's like I tend to, depending how I feel and depending on the project, I like using I either use a rough ink line, or I use, what is it? It's like a pencil line or a rough pencil and paint. A painter's got some really nice like charcoal pencils and pastel pencils that I like using. But I always just like, I kind of always experiment and try different things. And maybe that's also the other problem, is that I'm always trying new things. It's like recently I've gotten into doing grayscale first and then coloring afterwards.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like I've found I can't get it to work well for skin tone, so I'll just go straight with my skin tone, into the skin tone that's the final skin tone that's going to be. But for things like hair and fabric, it's like the grayscale works great.
Yes.
And so this is something that I've been experimenting a lot with. It's like I have no idea how to do it, but I've been experimenting, and it's working really great for me.
I can tell you what I've been doing, because I've had that exact same problem.
Yeah.
I've noticed. All right, so in Photoshop, and I'm sure it's the same. And anyone listening, I'm so sorry if this is too obscure. But all right, so you have a grayscale drawing. If do you use a multiply layer on top of it to color, or
That's the thing. I use like a bunch of different color layers on top, depending, because they all give like different effects. So I just play around with the different layers. So generally I'll use a color layer, but then I'll use a few like overlay and like linear light. It just depends what looks good.
I see.
Eventually. So I go back and forth, and I try, and also what I do is I use like an inverted layer of the color, so it's like the opposite colors, and I use that kind of as a base, so it's not directly on the gray, so the gray doesn't come through. So let's say if it's purple on top, if I'm going for a purple color, I'll have it underlaid with yellow, so some yellow tone will show through a bit. So that's kind of what I'll try and do.
Yeah, it's interesting. I know exactly what you're talking about. There's, especially with skin tones, if I have a color, let's say I draw my face by default is going to have just a little bit of gray in it. And in order to, for the blending modes, we're talking about blending modes. For the blending mode to listen, like let's say I do a color layer. Yeah, at least in Photoshop.
I don't know.
I'll put some, a certain skin color on top of my gray face. And what unfortunately happens is that there is a little bit of, depending on if you use hue, saturation, and balance sliders, there's a little bit of black in there. And you don't want any black, because when that comes out in print, it's going to look like it's washed out or dirty. So you actually want to pick, like when I draw faces now, I make sure that the faces are 100% white. And then I add a multiply layer for the faces, and there's no black in it at all.
Okay.
But I know exactly what you're talking about, because I love saturated, beautiful, like rich colors. And when I used to convert from grayscale, but I think we're very close to it from what you're talking about, both you and I, especially you, and I've seen your stuff. It's very vibrant. Saturation is excellent. The
I
colors just
do cheat. I do cheat a little bit in Photoshop, though. That's the thing. It's like I'll take my images through into Photoshop and tweak it
oh,
to
after
get
the
the
fact.
vibrancy up. Yeah, yeah,
That's okay though. I mean, if it works, it works. Nobody's
yeah.
gonna.
Because that's the thing. It's like I'll draw like clips here, and then it's like once I've actually like taken it into Photoshop, and I realize, wow, this is actually very dark. So
Yeah,
just to like bump it up a bit, I just I usually take it into, and then I also add some texture as well. So it doesn't look too flat or anything.
that's exactly. I've been struggling with
Yeah.
that myself, and what I have to do is adopt what you just said. A sort of like I get hung up on the colors as I'm painting, and then I want to quit the
Yeah.
drawing. I get frustrated and I say, "Oh, I need to go for a
Yeah.
walk. I'm angry." I need to just do the drawing and later fix these things.
But that's the thing, is that's how what I've also learned. It's just like if it's not working now, leave it for tomorrow. Or, and then tomorrow comes and you do it, and you're like, oh, this is so easy. I
Yeah,
mean, with this last illustration that I did, I don't know if you saw it, met a girl, the waifu pillow.
I did see
um,
it. Yeah, it was very
I
good.
was struggling so much with her hair. I've got this love-hate relationship with drawing hair. I don't know what it is. Sometimes it comes out great. Most of the times I actually hate drawing hair.
Uh-huh.
I spent days and days. So eventually I was like, I can't even draw this hair. I'm just going to start coloring and I'll figure out the hair later. And then eventually I was like, one day it just came to me and drew it and like, oh, well, that was easy.
Hmm. And I notice, and you said you converted this hair from gray.
Yes,
All
yes.
right.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
so
do that now. So I did that also with your illustration as well. That
okay.
yeah.
For anyone listening, I'm looking at the illustration now. There's blonde, which is a perfectly fine yellow with no black in it, and then there's just a hint of purple afterwards. Did you use a color blending layer on top of that?
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I took purple over that and just
And
knocked some of the yellow out. Yeah.
and for anyone studying art, that's a really interesting technique. Because if it was just yellow, I bet it would have looked flat.
Yeah, it did. That's the thing. It's just because everything is like the same tone. And it's just like you just want to knock it back just a little bit in some places.
Yeah.
And I usually try and do that in the shadowy areas. But here's the thing, I don't know anything about illustration. I'm an animator. I
Hmm.
just draw stuff. So it's like I'm used to drawing frame by frame. So a lot of the like coloring and illustration stuff is like I'm kind of learning as I'm going.
Uh-huh.
Granted, I would say this is probably like the second year that I've been illustrating like this. I mean, I always used to do for fun when I was younger. It's like when I was animating like on the side, I used to just draw for myself and illustrate in Photoshop and stuff. So a lot of the stuff is just I make it up as I go along. But I kind of keep what works and I ditch what doesn't. And I don't think there's been anything yet that hasn't worked for me. So the working in grayscale, it's like I look at this is why I actually really like seeing other artists work, and I like to see their process, even though I'll never share mine because I'm too shy. but
I understand.
because I know people have asked me to do like tutorials. I'm like, oh, I don't really know what I'm doing, so it's kind of difficult for me to like because I keep changing all the time.
Mhm.
But I like looking at other people's work and even just like seeing like their tones and things that they use. And I steal with my eyes. I get ideas from all sorts of different places and I try and implement that in the work that I do.
Mhm. You mentioned an iPad, something like that. They have a thing called Procreate.
Yes, an iPad Pro.
I'm
Yeah,
so jealous. They have a time lapse feature where
yeah.
I wish I could do something like that. I know I can record myself on my computer as I'm painting and stuff like that, but for some reason I get so self-conscious when I know I'm being watched, let's say.
I am exactly the same. When I was young, I'll probably eventually post the images at some point. I used to do a lot of portraits, like portrait studies. This was when I was a teenager. I don't think I can draw like that anymore. Um, and my dad, who's a magician, he used to work at it was like a flea market, so it was just like on the weekends. And he had this great idea saying that it's like, Sashi, you should sit down with your drawings and draw, let people watch you, and then they can pay you to draw them and all this. And I was like, nope, 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 that's not happening. It's like I get stage fright. It's like if I know, even like if I'm drawing on my tablet, like on my webcam, like on my PC, and I know someone is watching over my shoulder, I'll just stop. It's just like, what do you want? Go away,
Right.
leave me alone.
Looking directly at them, like, yeah, I know
Yeah,
exactly the feeling.
I can't do it.
So you never done any drawing classes or anything like that?
Oh no, no.
I went to art school for.
Oh, you mean sorry? So you mean as in teaching or?
Oh, no, well, either, but I suppose what I'm thinking of in the context of this question is being in a circle around a model, let's say, and all the students are drawing them.
Oh, yes. I did that at high school. So I went to an art high school. So it's a high school that specializes in the arts. So it's ballet, music, art, and drama.
Cool.
So yeah, we did have that. That was, you see, that's fun because everyone is drawing. It's not just you, one person drawing, and everyone's watching.
Oh, so the problem is when you have the attention on you.
Yes.
I
Yeah,
see.
that's my issue. It's like drawing in public. That's not the issue. It's people watching me. I'm not a performer. I cannot perform like that. So
yeah, there's
that's the issue.
I've always, one of the themes, the recurring themes that I talk about with a lot of people is introversion versus extroversion. And I guess my bias is that I assume a lot of artists are introverted, but I don't actually know if that's true. But one of the biggest problems that we have is that we're so shy, and a lot of the drawings I've done over the years, I get, even when someone reads my book in front of me, to just look through it. Like if you're at a convention and I'm selling you a book, I cringe so hard. And we have resting bitch face. Do you know, have you heard of that one?
I suffer with that all my life.
Okay,
so yes,
the male version, yeah, resting butch face I have. And whenever I'm at a convention, I have the nastiest look on my face, and I don't mean to, but like I just radiate vibes.
Frowning.
Get away from me. Don't look at me. Don't look at my books. Just give me money and walk away.
Yeah, I usually get the what? It's like, what's wrong? So it's like, you look so upset. It's like, why are you angry? So I'm like, I'm fine. Leave me alone. It's like, you insinuating that I'm angry is making me angry.
I know,
but,
exactly.
I get it a lot. It's like, what's wrong? Nothing's wrong. It's like, oh, why's your face? It's like, this is my face.
Stop asking me questions.
Yeah.
Yeah. That happens with my family too. They're looking at me and maybe I'm thinking about something that has nothing to do with anything.
Yeah.
They're like, "Are you mad?" And I'm like, "Why? Why are you asking that?" Now I'm mad.
But you mentioning people looking at your comics, I think that's exactly how I am with my animation as well.
Really?
Yeah, it's like I've put out like some of the commercials that I've worked on. It's like if I show someone, it's like here's the link, but I can't watch it because I see all the mistakes and everything wrong, and I'm just like, so I can't do it.
I know. The only thing that keeps me from the edge, let's say, is that I try to think of art as a service. For whatever reason, people are getting something out of the art that I'm not seeing.
Yes. Yes.
I guess on one hand, it's good to always be strict with our own quality so that we're always trying to get better. On the other hand, that can cripple us.
I know what you mean. Because then it's like you never get anything finished because you keep drawing over and over and over. And yeah.
I mean,
that's why it's good to have a deadline.
That's true. You have to make some hard decisions. You have no choice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You have to get it finished. It has to be done. And that's it.
Yeah. I'm struggling with that right now with the book, where I'm trying to tell myself you only have this many hours to work on a page.
Yeah.
And once you run out of time, you have to go to the next page. So that at the very end, I'm going to look at all the pages, and then I have, this much time to fix the problems. And then I have to pick which problems are the worst. And everything else has to stay in the book.
Otherwise, you're going to end up working on it forever. It'll never be finished.
Right. And that's the thing about comics.
You're going to keep nitpicking. Yeah, you're going to keep nitpicking. And
yeah, you can't, I've worked with publishers in the past where we've had deadlines and all that sort of stuff. Comics, especially as a medium, is all about speed and quality, but speed.
Right. Yeah.
You cannot delay. Like, I'm sure we could talk about manga. In fact, I'd love to. But they put out, I think, 18 pages a week. And they use assistants.
Yeah.
But, the American production line, I think it's like 24 pages, something like that, per month.
Yeah.
But that's even with a team. But yeah, you have to work so fast, and you have to make so many
But yeah,
quality trades.
but that's the thing though. It's like it's very frustrating because I know this with animation. You know, it's like I've spent nights. You know, it's like you have to meet the deadlines. It is what it is.
Yeah.
You know, on one there was a commercial. I spent working 2 days straight, literally 2 days straight. I had no sleep. I was a zombie, and I was still working. But you have to do it to meet the deadline.
Yeah, how many times have we heard about things like, especially in Japan, how they overwork themselves?
It's tough, you know, especially because with like, being so nitpicky and stuff, and it's like you've put stuff out. It's good, but you know you can do better. And then, but you know that it's like I know that if I start over or if I change a frame, I have to change 10 frames before and 10 frames afterwards, and that's going to take me a whole day. So just leave it. That's fine.
Yeah, I mean,
It's approved. Client approved it. It's fine.
there has to be an internal editor as well as
Yeah.
external editors. But
Oh,
I'm sure
definitely.
a lot of us are not good at taking criticism either, I suppose. At least I know I don't. I have to trust my editor the way that I would trust
Yeah.
a doctor. Like, you're looking at my butt. Okay, this is very uncomfortable. And my editor's like looking at all my art like with a magnifying glass, and it's the most uncomfortable thing in the world.
Yeah. I think so. I remember when I was at school. So I mentioned I went to art high school. It's like with some of our classes, especially like our drawing class, it's actually all our art classes now I think about it, we were forced to criticize each other's work, you know, and we couldn't be nice about it either. We weren't allowed to be nice. Our teachers were not PC back then. It's like, you know, if they think your art's crap, they will tell you, and they will tell you in front of everyone. Luckily, my work was always good, so that I didn't have to. I never got embarrassed or anything. My goodness.
Maybe. Do you think part of that was to have us develop thick skins?
I think so. I think so. You know, the teachers definitely had, you know, there was certain intention by them doing that. And it wasn't a lot of our classes. It's like we had to kind of give each other grades, you know, like what would you grade that? You know, it's like what mark would you give this sculpture, you know, or this painting or this drawing? It's, you know, to evaluate, you know, it's like what's wrong with it? Why is it bad? Or it's, yeah, so it was difficult. We didn't like it, but you had to do, we were forced to do it.
When, let's see, I remember a lot of my personal, let's say middle school, high school especially, I was never proud of my grades. I never tried in any of my classes except my art classes. And maybe writing
That sounds
too.
like me. That's me.
I mean, I regret that in my local schools where I grew up, they didn't put more effort into the arts. I took every art class that was available, and I still wasn't satisfied.
Yeah, so I was very fortunate because, you know, that my high school, so we don't have middle school here. We've just got a primary school and a high school.
Okay.
And high school starts at grade 8, standard 6. Well, back in the day it was standard 6, so it's grade 8. It starts and then goes to grade 12. And basically half of our school day was concentrated on art. That's how I think most of our weekday was like that. It was at least like, I want to say, it said there was 10 periods, 5 periods would be art, something like that. So it was pretty good. I did hate art history though. I struggled, but I think it's like I would be interested in studying it now, but I think when I was at school, the lack of interest came from the way it was taught. Our teacher would practically just dictate to us because she hated teaching us.
Right.
So she's like, gave us notes. She read stuff. Yeah, okay, we're going to do a test. It's like, wow, okay, this is exciting.
Yeah, that is exactly when I only went to art school or college for a year, and that was my exact experience with my art history teacher. He was so boring, and he was very into modern art, which I despise. But later, after I started studying art history independently, thanks to a lady named Sister Wendy, if you've ever heard of her. She's this little cute nun who loves traditional, all kinds of paintings and stuff like that. She has a series called The History of Painting. And I started watching her documentaries, and she would just walk through museums and talk about paintings and talk about art and in general and history, and taking it at my own pace without worrying about grades or any of that crap.
Right. Yeah.
That's when my passion was ignited. And I just realized I'm the kind of person that I don't do school. I can't be, I have to learn at my own pace for some reason.
Yes. Yes.
But maybe, and you describe yourself as self-taught as well, I think
Yeah.
maybe you and I would love art history. We just have to learn it our way.
Exactly. That's what I say. I think if I had to like study it now, I'd be so much more interested than I was at school. Because also it's like, why do I need to know this? This is nonsense. You know how kids are. We're not too smart when we're young.
I mean, it's like going to a museum and there's all these different sections. What I would want my teacher to say is go wherever you want, study whatever you like, and then tell me about it later. So maybe I'm not interested. I'm thinking about in New York City, we have a famous museum called the Metropolitan Museum of Art. And I would never intentionally go to the modern art section except to make fun of it. But I go straight to the Renaissance paintings. I go straight to early American and British art from like the 1800s, something like that. And all these different sections. But I don't want to be told that I have to go to a certain section because it's that week in the syllabus. Just let me, the Impressionists. I love the Impressionists, let's say. I want to learn about who, as a movement, Impressionism was fascinating to me, for instance. Anyway, what I'm saying is I agree. And if you have time, I don't know how you would get your hands on it, but if you could look up Sister Wendy, I think you'll enjoy her a lot.
Yeah, I'll have a look.
All right. But let's see, timing wise, I don't want to, let's see. Part of the things I wanted to ask about, and you can skip this question if you like, is that I think a lot of your work is what would be described as not safe for work. But I don't know if I don't want to put you in that box though. What caused you, I would say, I don't mean it to sound this way. You're famous for not safe for work stuff. Do you think that that's a fair assessment, or what kind of...
I'd say it's probably like cheesecake.
Cheesecake, okay.
Not the dessert, though.
I understand. Let's say pinups.
Well, yeah, it's pinups. It's because when I think not safe for work, trust me, I've seen a lot of
okay
for work.
You're right.
You're right. And I'm not there yet. Well, I'm never going to get there. I draw the line at pornography.
How do you think, or because I only became familiar with your work in the past year or so, but I've since seen a lot more of your stuff.
I've only really been drawing. Well, I want to say like this illustration, like for like comics and stuff, or like the indie campaigns and things, like the last 2 years only. In any case.
So that's just the work that you're asked to do.
Not all of it. Some of the stuff, there are some things I've done just on my own, like experimenting, like in paint and stuff. A lot of the more recent things, especially like this year, it's been commission work. Mm-hmm. But I try and get my own stuff in every now and then when I got some time.
Yeah, I mean, the reason I ask is that I guess as artists we get a lot of people, when I was sharing my gallery stuff earlier this year, they're like, wait, you don't just draw comic strips? And every time I shared some more of my stuff, they're like, wait, you do 3D? Wait, you can do paintings? Wait,
yeah.
And I'm thinking like, oh, they have no idea. I'm curious, are there galleries of your stuff?
No, not really.
I hope what you mean is not yet, because I love your stuff and I want to see more.
Well, that's the thing. Like I said, it's like I'm an animator, and that's mostly what I've been doing. That's like my main job usually, right. And it's kind of like doing a commission work. The past year has become my main job.
I see.
So that's why I don't really have like much of a gallery, and I hadn't actually drawn for years. I'm talking about for myself.
For pleasure.
I didn't, because like you work all day drawing, and then it's like I don't feel like drawing later in the day.
I just want to watch TV. Yeah, at the end of the day.
Well, this is the thing, and I think that's also why I took up cosplay, because it was a creative outlet. It wasn't drawing; it was something else. but I've always needed something. It's either I have to draw or I have to create something somehow. And so that's why, yeah, I've started taking up cosplay. So as a creative outlet, I know a lot of people don't get it, but what I enjoy from cosplay is the creative process. So if I wasn't working and doing drawing for work, I would be making costumes.
Okay, that yeah, I was going to ask about that. So you make your own costumes. Have you had familiar? Well, before you did cosplay, were you? How do I ask this? When making fabrics, of course, you have to think in 3 dimensions. You have to make certain cuts in
Yeah,
certain angles. Did you have to learn as you went? Did you study that?
pretty much. No, I didn't study. I didn't study anything. I just teach myself everything. So, so my very first costume I actually commissioned. I wasn't very happy with it because I ended up making like a bunch of changes, like manually, like sewing by hand. I didn't have a sewing machine. Um, the next costume my aunt made, I'd say she made like 80%, 80 90% of it. But she lived quite far away from me at the time, still does, but it was, commuting back and forth was quite a mission. So it's like, I need to get a sewing machine. I need to learn how to sew. I had no idea how to read a pattern, how to use a sewing machine, but I learned, there's the internet, watch tutorials and stuff. So
Uh-huh.
yeah, and I just learned how to do everything on my own. And if I needed any help, I could ask my aunt about some stuff, but otherwise I just went like balls to the wall and made stuff.
How do you? Well, I didn't even know because I'm a dork. I didn't know that like fabric stores existed until like a year ago. And
Jeez.
well, no, my wife also does costumes and stuff for fun,
Yes.
and she brought me to one of these fabric stores. Here we have Joanne's Hobby Lobby.
I know about Joanne's. I'm
Yeah,
quite jealous.
I didn't know that it existed, and when I walked in there, I'm like, "What is this heavenly place? I've never been in here." And we always have this joke when we walk in. I always pretend to be the husband that's like, "Why have you dragged me in here?" And so
Right. But
whenever
you
we're at
actually,
the,
I love being here.
it's so funny. Like at the cash register, I always try to be immature and like look at the candy. I'm like, "Can we get out of here?"
Yeah.
Even though I'm the one that wants to be there. And
Yeah, yeah.
it's only women in that store, and I'm the only man ever in that store with her, and I'm like chaperoned. I tell my wife like, "Can you take me? I have to go to Joanne's. Can you take me? I don't want to go in there by myself. I'm
Yeah.
scared." But anyway, I'm asking because I guess with fabrics and all that sort of stuff, what am I trying to ask? It's a
Well,
very
I think what you're
expensive
trying to,
hobby.
yeah. Oh, you truth. So yeah, that's the other issue. And also it's like my tastes are quite expensive. I don't go for it's like earlier on when I first started, I went for the cheaper fabrics, but then you kind of learn what happens with cheaper fabrics. They're actually not
You
fun
can't
to
wash
use.
them. They
And they're very synthetic and they unravel and there's a lot of problems with them.
right.
Um, so when I made a Snow White costume, it was one of the last costumes I made, and that it was a very expensive costume because I wanted it to look like authentic, like a true princess. So it was very luxurious fabrics and yeah. But what I also found fun and interesting with cosplay, especially when it comes to cosplaying, like let's say animated characters, because you taking a 2D character, something that's flat, and you having to translate it into and reinterpret it into a 3D world, and that I find quite interesting.
Yeah.
Because there's things you can interpret any which way you want. Um, yeah. And
Well,
did I mention I also judge competition, so I get to tell people the costumes suck. I can't ever say that, but
that's always
yeah.
very
So,
painful is to assess. Whenever an artist is asking
oh.
me, "Can you look at my portfolio?" I say no. Just please don't.
Have you okay, have you ever gotten this? Please tell me you have, so I don't feel so alone. Have you ever gotten when someone finds out, and it's usually someone with a child, and then they find out you're an artist, like, oh, my son's also an artist, let me show you his work. And then they go and they run and they grab the sketchbook and then they open and they show you, and it's absolute, like dog shit, and you just like, okay. And that's you see, I don't say it's terrible because I don't want to be mean, but I'm not going to say it's good because I don't want to lie. So
Yeah.
I just
What
I'm like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Oh, okay, that's good to.
Mhm.
Oh, I
Yeah,
hate
I've
that.
had that. I've had that happen. What I actually eventually what happened is that I became a after school art teacher for a while, and
Oh,
a lot of you would get that kind of questions from the parents is like, is there even a reason for my child to be here? Do they have any potential? And what I would
yeah.
say is I would look at them dead in the eye, and I would, in a very serious kind of like karate master kind of way or something, I would say like, look, I'm going to give you the truth. I don't care about your current student's level. And I give them, have you ever heard of the 10,000 hour rule?
No.
Well, it's a very flexible thesis that if you practice anything for 10,000 hours, you'll become a master. That's all. So
Okay.
I tell them, look, you're not going to see enough growth unless your child is practicing at least a few hours a day. I'm not going to tell you if I think this is good or not because that means nothing. What you need to do is ask yourself and ask your child, how much are you practicing? Practice for a year and then look at the before and after, and you tell me if you see improvement.
Right.
I don't actually like telling people if they're good or not. I need them to tell themselves if they're good or not. Because who am I trying to compare myself to or compare this
It's
picture
true.
to? And even as a student, like, I mean, there's a lot of people I know that are always trying to learn how to draw or to get better. And I think I suck. And people still tell me that I'm good. So I'm like, one of us is lying. or or we all have different standards, and I think that's the truth.
Yeah,
It's
'cause
like, am I
I was
good?
just thinking about
Yeah,
that.
that's really the question: is am I good compared to who? So
Right.
if your goal,
But some stuff is just bad. So there
for
is some
sure,
things that are just
and yet there are, I would even say there are some comics artists specifically. I don't like naming him because it's mean, but he's a terrible
yeah.
artist. But I love his books. And I
Right.
think what it is he just doesn't care that he's a bad artist, and I can tell. But his stories are really fun to read, and somehow I just love reading his books. I won't name him.
But there's some like I want to say it's like some older manga and stuff that I really like. It's like it's got like the wonkiest like proportions and things. But I like the legs are ridiculously long. But it's
Yeah.
like there's something about it that's kind of endearing and I like that it's kind of bad. Yeah. But it's not actually bad though. It's kind of these very strange stylistic choices.
Yeah.
But I like it.
Especially old shoujo manga, like
Yeah.
Clamp, even if you were familiar with them.
Oh,
Their early stuff is so cheesy in the best way.
yeah. I
And
love that stuff.
yeah, but I don't think that they were at the time. They didn't. They just enjoyed drawing, I guess. And if someone's like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah,
And
I'm sorry.
I think, no, I was just going to say, I think there's this very strange push towards realism nowadays. I don't understand it.
Isn't that interesting? I once, I'll tell you an awkward story. I was once hanging out with some friends, and someone showed me a sketch or a photo of a sketch that looked so realistic, and it was really well rendered. And I look at it and I say, this is crap. They should have just taken a photograph. And
Right.
I think the person showing me that was asking me to look at their art. And I told them to their face by accident that their work sucked. And it's like, you might as well just make a photocopy. Why make it realistic?
Well,
But
so
I actually
that's how
do feel that way.
no, I used to draw. Well, I used to draw. That's how I used to draw like portraits and stuff when I was in high school. But the reason for it was because I was very rebellious. This is me being rebellious. I was like the best student, art student. But this is how I rebelled was to draw hyper realistic portraits usually of like musicians like Cat Stevens, Simon and Garfunkel. This was like during my holidays because we were not allowed to draw that way, for our classes.
Huh.
They had to be very sketchy. It's like you have to. The teachers they were very adamant that you have to be able to see like the line work. So it had to be a lot of cross hatching, a lot of line work. You have to be able to. It had to stand out, and we weren't allowed to draw like super realistic detail, like something that looks like a black and white photograph. So that's why I used to draw that way in my spare time. But nowadays it's like people don't seem to understand what stylization is anymore. And like especially in comics, when I see people, this argument that that doesn't look realistic, it's like, well then if you want it to look realistic, you may as well just take photographs and put that in the book.
Yeah. I mean, that's what illustration as a profession only existed before photography became viable. Like for
Right. Yeah.
say, I have old newspapers from the 1800s where they still used illustrations for like fashion magazines and all that stuff.
Yes.
And those drawings are really fun to look at. But as soon as photography became possible for the average printer, they went straight to photography and they stopped using
Yeah.
illustrations. And
It wasn't necessary to use
right.
illustration anymore.
And nowadays, like exactly what you're saying, the only reason for illustration to exist is for the pleasure of seeing how this artist is rendering this object or this person. There's no pleasure in it looks just like the real thing. Great, your hand is robotic. Amazing job.
Yeah.
It's very boring.
Yeah, I don't know if you ever had magazines there, but I remember seeing magazines. It's like must have been in the 90s. They were like these. It's like it was a weekly magazine, and at the back, I'm trying to remember now. It would basically be like a comic book soap opera, but it was photographs with speech bubbles.
No, I've never seen that.
And it's the weirdest looking thing because it's like looking at a comic, but it's actual photographs of people. And it's like with this push for this super realism, how everything must look real. It's like, well, then they may as well go use that. I kind of tempted and just take photographs and maybe manipulate it a little bit in Photoshop, and there's your comic. Add some speech bubbles.
Mm-hmm.
And
part of a cultural problem that I've been noticing, and I'm sure you're very qualified to answer this, is the argument of, oh, those women are drawn too sexy.
Those women aren't real.
Right. What's happening there?
That's what I don't understand. That's exactly what I'm saying. I don't understand. It's like, I mean, you see how I draw women. There's this weird notion that women don't like seeing illustrations of sexy women, when in fact that's what we love, because it's beautiful. It's like when I was started really getting into comics. I mean, the stuff I collected was Michael Turner's what was it at the time? It was Witchblade, Fathom, and it's because of the way he drew women. And it's the same with J. Scott Campbell's work. It was because of the way he drew women.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting, especially, I guess I don't know, I haven't studied this enough, but the way that you draw women is as if through a man's eye. I don't know how to explain it. Like, for instance, shoujo manga is very glamorous and magical, but
yeah,
you mentioned Witchblade, for instance, which is exactly the kind of comics that these, you could call them Puritans, would have hated.
Yep.
The depictions. Do you see these figures as a sort of like, I guess I don't understand the feminine mind, obviously, but
I don't either. That's the problem. I don't.
But you see it as beautiful as a target to say, like, this is what a beautiful woman or a type of beautiful woman can look like.
No, I don't compare it to real life at all. That's the thing.
Oh, okay.
I think any woman comparing a comic book character to real life, this must be something's not right then. I mean, I think that the same argument goes to toys. Because I remember at some point people complaining about, oh, Barbie dolls, it's going to give young girls, like complexes. And it's like, when I was a child, I had plenty Barbies that I never once compared myself to a Barbie because I know it's plastic, it's a doll.
Uh-huh.
It's not something I compared my body to at all. Why would I? It's a toy. And with like sexy woman in comics illustrations, I see it as I can appreciate the drawing, the illustration, the curves, the lines. Maybe it's because I grew up with Disney movies and I love Disney art, and that's I suppose a lot of my art kind of has a bit of a Disney-esque feel to it. I know people always used to tell me that my stuff was so Disney, like it was a bad thing. Maybe that's it. I mean, Jessica Rabbit was one of my favorites when I think it was like 9 years old. I loved drawing Jessica Rabbit. Mm-hmm. But I didn't see her as a sex object. I just thought she looked really nice.
I see. Yeah, I guess there's a sort of rebellion happening, at least, I mean, we're talking about South African culture versus American culture. I don't know how much overlap there is. I know in America,
there is there's a small amount. There is definitely some overlap with certain things, definitely.
What I would assume is that the people criticizing, I don't think there's very many of them, but they're criticizing this, let's say, quote unquote, idealized figure because it's for them unattainable, or because they hate that other people are uplifting that as.
It's it's weird because it's not real. I don't compare it to real life. I don't see like Aspen Matthews and like, oh, why aren't I tall and skinny, and have a teeny weight? I
No.
don't think that. Actually, I have a very beautiful sculpture of her. It's like I want to buy all the merchandise, get all the products because it's beautiful.
It's the same with men too. I mean, I've never looked at a muscular man depicted in a comic or a movie or a game and said, "Oh, that's not representative of me." I want to be
Yeah,
able to project myself onto these powerful dudes. I'm just an average guy.
yeah. But that's the thing. I think if there is ever going to be an issue, it would be, let's say, Instagram models that Photoshop their photos.
Right.
Because you're looking at what you think is a real person that's like heavily photoshopped with an unattainable body because they photoshopped them.
Yeah.
I think that's an issue. But when it comes to illustration, it's not real life. I'm sorry.
No. Art is a sacred thing that
Yeah.
when someone tries to tell me that I am or am not allowed to draw something, I want to break that rule just to show them that they can't control me. Even if
Yeah.
I'm not even interested, if they say you're not allowed to draw, this kind of body type on a woman, that is exactly what my next book is about. I don't.
But that's the other thing that's so ridiculous. It's like it's okay that I can draw woman, sexy woman in a certain way, but you can't because you're a man. Which is utter rubbish.
It's a wider cultural problem. I think it's related to control. They just want to be able to control what is and is not acceptable in the art world. But all right, so we've been artists way longer than they've been pretend artists or art critics.
We've been alive for that.
Yeah, you and I have been doing this since we were 3 or whatever. And
Yes,
this is
exactly.
our religion. You don't get to tell us.
It's funny. It's actually funny. So when I went to visit my parents last year, now I've only been like really drawing a lot of sexy girls recently. I used to do it when was it, like they said the early 2000s, when I was like still drawing a lot for myself, but even like sketching wise, I'd sketch for myself. I didn't show anyone, and so I wanted to show my dad something, but I'm like, oh, it's full of boobs and butts that I'd drawn.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, it's like I told my dad, it's maybe the content's a bit questionable. He's like, oh, Sasha, I know you've always drawn sexy girls, and I have. Since I was very little, I've always drawn sexy girls. It's just what I did.
That's really good to have a parent that understands. And I think as artists,
my dad's always been very supportive.
That's so
of my
good.
art.
I mean, we can't help. I don't know. There's just certain me and my family disagree on these sorts of things where it's like, I don't make plans on a Saturday, let's say. And the reason for that is I just want to feel where the day is going. Something tells me like, I'm going to go for a drive. I don't know where I'm going. I'm just going to go somewhere. And then as I'm driving, I'm like, oh yeah, that's where I want to go. As opposed to making a plan and saying, this is what I'm going to do from 10 to, And art for me is the same way. I don't like having plans, art-wise. Or I don't like telling myself what I should or shouldn't draw. But there's just something, I don't want to look at art. How do I put this? I don't like the obligation factor. And if I know that someone was forced to draw something, you can tell, you can feel it. Like in the same way that you were, forgive me, what was it when you draw on top of a sketch? What did you call that? Corrections? Cleanup. That's why the cleanup, I think, has no soul as opposed to the sketch.
Yeah.
When you're sketching, you're looking for the piece. It's there.
I think I know what you're also saying. So with one of my previous jobs, it's like sometimes it felt like the producer and the company was like pimping me out.
I understand.
And that's the thing. So when you work full time versus freelance, is that freelance, at least I can choose the jobs that I work on and earn a lot more money.
Yeah.
Versus working at a company where I have to do whatever work they give me, whether I like it or not, whether I want to do it or not, I have to do it. So I kind of, basically forced to draw stuff and work on things I didn't want to do, but it's like, well, this is what you're getting paid for. You don't have a choice.
Yeah. Well, often I find that I make more mistakes when I'm not passionate about a piece.
Oh,
Or
definitely. Yes.
do you get this when a client says, I have a vision and you have to make corrections because it's not my vision?
Well, the most, okay, so I must say, when it comes to doing like pinup illustrations and stuff I've been doing, I haven't had any, I must say, issues with that. But I know what you're saying when it comes to animation now. Usually, because I would also do character designs as well. So it would be storyboarding, character designs, all that kind of stuff. And, the clients were like, we want it edgy. We just want it edgy. And it's like,
What does that mean?
tells me, exactly, that tells me absolutely F all. That tells me nothing. With some of my previous jobs, I told the animation director, I said, listen, I do not want to be in the meetings because I know I'm going to say stuff that's probably going to lose us this job. So just just relay the whatever comes from the meeting, relate afterwards to me. Thanks, because I know I know I can get difficult. It's weird. It's like I'm shy with certain things, but when it comes to work and what I believe in, it's a little different. I'll compromise to a certain point.
Well,
but then I'll stop. Like, no.
I mean, I call myself a drama queen sometimes, but I can't help it. Like, I'm very passionate about what I do. So if an artist, that's why when you and I were working together, I hope I didn't step on your toes at all. I needed to make sure that you were enjoying the illustration, because if there was any point,
I loved it.
And it can go for any client work in general, in case anyone's listening. When you work with an artist, what you want to do to get the best results, make sure they have fun. So even if it doesn't look the way that you anticipated, first of all, you need to know what our art looks like. And don't ask us, I have a chip on my shoulder, mate, I'll ask you. When someone says, can you draw in this style? Do you ever get that?
I have not had that. Usually people are like, I want you to draw something in your style. So, and I hate my own style. That's the only problem. So because, again, I've probably mentioned this so many times. I'm an animator, in case you didn't know. So because of the type of work animation is, you have to be able to adapt to different styles. So I'm actually very used to drawing in different styles. That isn't even an issue for me. If someone wants me to draw in a specific style, I can do that. Mm-hmm. I have no problem with it, because that is kind of my job description is. But I've been very lucky. I haven't had any requests like that with the pinup work that I've been doing.
That's good then. If they know what they're getting, and well, I understand the feeling of let's say, when you talk about being in the boardroom meetings and that sort of thing. I used to work on video games, and the kinds of requests that I would get from my clients about, can you redo this? And, we're changing the game into this thing. And it's like, you only have so many hours with me per day. Is this really how you want to spend your time? Like, I'm not going to spend, work overtime unless I'm getting paid. That's the other thing. Right. You're going to pay me a lot for overtime. If you're having...
That's why freelancing is the best, because it's like, well, if it means I have to work extra days, that's fine, because you're going to have to pay me for those extra days.
We could talk about freelancing as its own episode, I'm sure. But I think that's a fascinating, at least for a profession. I think I've been doing it for maybe 6 or 7 years.
But that's the thing. It's like freelancing. It's like touch and go. It's good and it's bad at the same time.
Well, yeah, I mean, really, you're your own boss. So if you don't make a lot of money in a year, that's, you have no one to complain to but yourself, I suppose.
Yeah.
But
and for me, it's kind of tough because of the industry. I mean, the animation industry is tiny, and there's not much requests for 2D animation, which is another problem.
Trends.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yes. It's like commercials are based on trends and whatever movie's popular at the moment.
Right.
So it's like when Transformers came out, all commercials had to look like Transformers. It's like, oh god. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess
It's a very strange thing.
it's hard when you're doing commercial art. At the end of the day, your client has to somehow make money off of what you're doing.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
at the same time, it's like a machine that feeds itself terrible things like, oh, this is trendy, therefore let's make more of what's trendy, and
yes,
it, it,
yeah,
it conditions the audience to only want what's trendy.
yeah,
But luckily, I guess we're out there in the internet where it's more of a wild west. And I
yeah.
guess people just gravitate towards whatever they like. And that's where people like yourself can thrive. Well, in any
Yeah,
case,
I really at some point want to start doing some of my own animation. I've been very lazy when it comes to that. It's just I think I just don't have any ideas, quite honestly.
I was going to ask
So,
then, yeah, aside from a script, if you were to do your own animation, let's say, would you want to be the creator of the story, let's say? Or do you just
well,
want to
that's
animate?
just, yeah. I don't have any interest in like let's say creating a short or anything like that. It's like I would much rather work in a team with people like I've done previously because that again so I don't have to do cleanup and then and coloring.
Uh-huh.
But I think it's because there's a certain pipeline and all that with when it comes to animation, and I really enjoy. I really enjoy the animation process. I love doing like rough animation, keyframes. It's like even
Yeah.
so, I usually do everything. So normally, what would happen in bigger companies, they would, what does it say back in the day? They would do keyframes and then they would and breakdowns, and then they would give that off to a tweener, an in-betweener who'd come and do all the in-between frames.
Mm.
I do everything myself, but it's kind of like I enjoy it up to that point. Once all the animation is done, the rough animation, I hate everything that comes after it. So preferably, I would rather work in a team. Yeah.
Okay.
But as far as just doing something for myself, it's like I think I'm keen on like doing like little clips of cute things. I really like cute stuff. So it's um I like sexy girls and cute animals. That's what I usually like drawing.
I wonder if, like, if you only enjoy up to the part where you're doing the rough sketches without the cleanup and stuff, what if you
Yeah.
did an animation just of roughs? I'm sure the people would enjoy watching it.
Yeah. Yeah, but see, yeah, I suppose, but I don't really have a story to tell. And I would never try and venture something long either. I mean, I'd probably keep something like a minute maybe. I mean, I'm just speaking off the top of my head.
And that's 12.
Because
Sorry.
just 12 frames a second, unless you want to go on ones, and it's 24 frames. But nowadays it's 25 frames because of playback. It gets very
Yeah,
confusing.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, for anyone
I've
listening, just the brief what you're trying to say, if you could explain ones and twos and threes even.
ones, twos, threes, and sometimes fours, even five sometimes.
Huh.
um, yeah, well, that's the amount of drawings that you have to do per second. So, so basically, let's say 2D animation is usually done on 12 frames per second. So that's how do I explain that? So that is 12 drawings per second, and then times that by a minute, which is 6. I can't math.
Yeah. We're good
But
at lots
basically,
of things.
it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot of drawing. Let's put it that way. It's a lot of drawing. And I found myself that, and I think it comes with cleanups. Rough is not so much, but cleanup is like my hand aches. It's like that's when the aches and pains start coming.
Yeah.
But you have to be so much more precise with your line work.
Yeah, that's where I stop. I was doing test animation for Mary Sue as a joke. Not as a joke exactly,
Yeah.
but just for fun. And what I ended up doing in Photoshop was I did one keyframe and then I just used the magic wand tool and moved things around as
Oh,
in
okay.
betweens. And I told myself, like, honestly, I don't care about things like top quality, but for me, the joy is seeing my characters move.
Yeah.
So I think maybe in some future world, part of the joy of animation can be something as simple as doing keyframes and then just chopping up the keyframes and then moving things back and forth and using layers in a tricky way in Photoshop. And that's how you can do all your in-betweens, depending on your personal level
Yeah,
of...
you see, for me, I love character and acting. That's a big thing for me.
Right.
So it's not just motion. It's acting.
You actually take pride in it.
Yeah, it's acting. It's conveying an emotion. That's what I enjoy doing.
Yeah. I mean,
And I think I've been told I'm pretty good at that. So that's quite what I enjoy doing.
well, if you ever have the time, I'm sure everyone would be head over heels to see what kind of animations that you can produce.
So maybe we should think maybe we could
You and
animate Rosemary. Animate Rosemary, just something like a few seconds, like let's say like 5 seconds, just like a little take, just like an expression, just a simple little thing.
When do we start? Let's do it right now.
As soon as I have time, which isn't right now.
Yeah, I know. Well, I'll tell you what.
But it's something worth looking at. I mean, it's just like a little for fun project we could maybe discuss afterwards.
Yes, let's do that. There's no question in my mind.
Yeah.
But yeah, what I really want to do, I don't know where this project is going to go, but
Yeah.
something involving animation would be incredible for
Well,
sure.
I think she lends herself to animation. She seems very expressive as well, and the design's not overly complicated, because that's the other thing and that's the other thing with myself, is that I tend to draw more simple.
Yeah.
And that's what I say. I think my style is a bit toony and it's a bit more simple, also because with animation you have to simplify characters, right down to like bare bones, and only draw what's absolutely necessary, to convey a message.
Yeah, cartooning is very subtractive, and you have to
Yeah,
you have to
and
find the essence of whatever you're drawing.
yeah, and I think people nowadays they're very easily impressed by lots of details, and it's like, I don't know. I suppose
Well,
that's why I'm more of a minimalist myself when it comes to character design.
but that does speak to your animation background. Animation is
Yeah.
all about reducing everything to its like it does. For instance, does gosh, do I have to draw all the eyebrows? Can it just be one line?
Every little hair. Yeah.
Every pen stroke times 60, you're going to have to do it 60 times. So anytime I see
That is
animation,
why. Yeah.
there's no cross hatching in animation.
And that is why I am so impressed by Japanese animators, stuff that they animate. It boggles my brain. My friend it is an art of Akira book, and there's it's got frames in there from the rough animation, and it is mind blowing. And I'm just looking at those frames, and I have no idea. It's like, how did the person who has to in between these frames, how do they keep track? How do they know what's going on? It boggles my brain.
I'm sure there was a
beyond
lot
me.
of smoking cigarettes involved. And
What type of cigarettes are we talking?
well, I mean,
It's really amazing.
a lot of bad habits and crazy nail biting
Stress.
and no sleep.
It's very extremely impressive. It's like, I don't know. I love old school animation, it's like the fact that it wasn't digital. All the special effects, everything was hand drawn.
Yeah.
The smoke. It's extremely impressive, and it's like people who don't understand how it works. It's like they don't appreciate it as much, I don't think.
No, what always got on my nerves when I was younger is that this idea of comics, or not just comics, but animations just for kids. It's like,
Oh, let's not go there. Yeah.
You have no idea how good animation can be. Like, Ghost in the Shell was my big one. I like Akira a lot, but Ghost in the Shell was the one that turned me into like a maniac. Yeah, but it's like I was drooling with the level of detail and the tone and anyway. But that kind of thing was like, wait. Animation can be for adults. It's made by adults, isn't it? Why shouldn't I be able to do this?
But
And
here's
then
the thing.
Yeah.
And sorry, I was just going to say, animation was never intended for children. I don't know at what point that even happened. Animations, like when Snow White was created, that was for an adult audience.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't for kids.
That was in the 20s, wasn't it? Or the 30s. It was
30s, I think. Yeah.
almost 100 years ago.
That's a long, yeah.
That's crazy to think. I was watching Cinderella a couple of weeks ago, and I was even back then like I would say they quasi rotoscoped the animation sometimes, but it was still
Yeah, so
so.
yeah, I
And
think
and
what they used a lot of film reference for it.
and they also used solid colors without shading, which I thought was interesting back then.
But that's the other thing I've also been noticing with Disney animation and but with the movies is that it's a lot of flat colors, but it somehow it works.
Oh yeah,
Um, what was I watched? What was it? Even Aladdin. Okay, so yeah, I have like special place in my brain for like The Little Mermaid, Aladdin,
of
Beauty and the
course. Yeah,
Beast, The
yeah,
Lion King. It's like if you watch these things, it's just and even it's like it's very simple. So much is simple, but it works.
yeah. It's a lost art. I don't think
Yeah.
if you wanted to assemble a team to make a movie like that again, I don't think you could do it. I
When I had heard about the animators, this basically the studio, the 2D studio, the movie studio being closed down at Disney, I gave up. I was
yeah.
so pissed off. I was really angry.
And I got the same feeling, not to sound like a sappy person, but like when I watched, I'm a huge Studio Ghibli guy, and
Yeah,
The
me
Wind
too.
Rises, at the end of it, I was crying because I was thinking, like, this is the last movie that Ghibli's ever going to make. Maybe.
Yeah.
But, like, I was thinking about how Hayao Miyazaki's so old and he's retiring soon, and the
No, but he
world.
never retires.
I know. He's making one more
Goodness.
movie, his Caterpillar
Yes.
movie or something. But it's like
Oh,
every time I hear this is his last movie, I'm like, the world is losing its last
yeah.
greatest animation studio.
Yeah.
It's so heartbreaking to think like it's an art that's dying, and 3D animation's fun. I know a little bit
Yeah,
about it.
it's yeah, it's fun, but it's not the same.
No,
There's not that magic in it at all.
the human touch,
Yeah.
something's missing.
So I don't know if you've seen so like with Moana and it's like they actually do 2D tests.
Yes.
They test scenes out and you see and I've seen the test animation. You're just like, why don't they just do it in everything like that? It
Yeah.
looks amazing, and it's somehow and it's almost like the cleanup process. Once they convert, go through the 3D process, and it's like it looks nice, but something's missing. There's just something not there.
Yes. I think I was talking to oh gosh, I forgot who I was talking to. I was discussing nostalgia as a concept
Yeah,
and how
right.
powerful it is. And I think what happens, there's
Yeah,
some kind of subconscious, very subconscious yearning that happens in the human mind when they see a drawing. They project something from like either their childhood or something. It feels very nostalgic to look at a well-drawn,
yeah,
sketchy cartoon. But as soon as the polish happens, it loses it. So I'm
right.
trying to
Yeah.
I'm fighting with myself every day, telling myself it's okay not to polish art. Leave it alone.
I'm having such a problem with that. I know exactly what you're talking about,
Yeah.
and I've been having such a problem with that. So I follow a lot of artists. I look at, especially like manga artists and stuff, and I look at the stuff and it's like I zoom in, zoom, zoom, zoom. I'm like,
Every
I said,
stroke, right?
no, but it's like actually very messy. It's like the line work's very rough.
Ah,
But when you zoom out, it's like somehow you don't see it. Then you zoom in, and I'm like, I need to get my lines like this. I need to stop concentrating on being so perfect. It's very difficult for me, and that's why it takes me so long because I try and get my lines as perfect as possible,
yeah.
and I'm trying to loosen up that part of my illustration.
It's funny. I think of it in the martial arts sense, and I realize we've gone over an hour, so I'm sorry. We'll wrap up soon.
That's fun.
This is so much fun to talk about, though. When I see or I hear about martial artists when they get to a level beyond mastery, when they say, "Okay, now your style is that you have no style."
Yeah,
You're now beyond the point where the discipline doesn't even matter anymore. And I look at some super master artists who their work is so filthy and unrefined, but that's because they've gone beyond the level of like
yeah,
they don't need to polish their stuff anymore. Because
yeah,
for me, when I polish, like let's say I'm shading someone's cheek and I'm adding a little bit of blush. I'm doing some shading on the nose or something like that. The corner of their jaw, I add a little bit of dark color. My instinct is to hide my brush strokes by blending the colors.
yeah. That's my problem.
But then I
Yeah,
look at my favorite artists on Twitter or
yeah.
something, and I say, wait, they're not blending.
I know.
It's
I know
like,
exactly what you're talking about.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just immature or something. I can't figure out.
I, I I have the exact same issues, and then I started thinking maybe it's just because of the type of brushes I'm using, and that's why with the coloring, I sometimes try and be a bit rougher, and I'm using like different tools so I could get a more painterly or rougher look to certain things.
Yeah.
But I always end up blending anyway.
I
It's like,
know.
oh, was it like an airbrush?
I think I've been trying to devise what do you call it? Like an exercise for myself. If I took a ball, like a slime from Dragon Quest, if you've ever played it or
Yeah.
seen it, like kind of transparent a little bit, very saturated colors, and it absorbs lots of colors from around the room. I want to draw a new slime every day and try to make like the whole focus is brush strokes. Do not blend.
Yeah.
Just make a new slime every day, a
Well,
new shape.
it's like going back to school for me then, because that's basically how we had to draw and paint. It's like you have not allowed to blend. We were not allowed to blend. You have to see the brush strokes.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
I think maybe that's the next level for people like us.
going backwards.
We're at this stage, like I always say, the most important thing when you're training in art is to get your hand to obey you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I think
My issue is my issue is getting what's in my brain through my hand into the tablet,
yeah.
into the software.
There's and
It
yeah,
just
every
doesn't happen.
and that's why I prefer paper is there's fewer steps. When I have to
Yes.
go through keyboard, tablet, computer, monitor, print, there's more steps. It's more annoying.
Yeah.
When things go wrong, I don't understand why.
Yeah.
Man, but you're definitely speaking my language. My hand is shaking. I want to draw now. I want to practice these brush strokes. But all right, so for everyone listening now, if they want to follow your stuff, what's the best way for us to enjoy your work?
I'm on Twitter, it's at I think it's at Miss_Sashi. I'm also on Instagram as Chibi Sashi.
Yes.
But you will also see a lot of photos of my cat there as well.
Of course.
You don't want some cute animals and sexy girls thing.
There you go.
Follow my
But I
Instagram.
also do want to encourage you. I know it's cringy to look at, but if you ever want to share your sketchbook stuff, I'm sure it would be it would be
Well,
like
that's the thing. That's my thing is that I actually do. I just need to scan it because it's just not scanned in. I mean, it's on like photocopy paper. I don't know what this paper, just regular old cheap paper. I don't have anything fancy.
is your phone camera decent enough, you think?
You know what? I would rather scan because I've noticed that taking photos with the phone, depending how you hold that phone,
It's true.
depending on the angle, it kind of changes the image. So
Yeah.
no, I
Well-
just need to when I've got time and I'm not lazy, I just need to. I got a lot of stuff.
Man.
And also a lot of work sketches, a lot of stuff I've done, for work, and I've got crap
Well,
loads.
I know that I would be speaking for others when I say like I would love to see that stuff.
Yeah, I'd have to find a place to like dump everything, like bulk or something somewhere.
Sure. There, I use ArtStation if you're ever looking for a decent
Oh yeah, I've
gallery.
seen that.
I'm very
Okay.
happy with it. It's a little annoying to start new projects, but
Yeah.
yeah, I'm very happy with it.
So I
And-
think I joined Behance several years back, but I never used it because I'm lazy. I know.
You can spread, there's so many different social media sites and everything, and you can only pick a few.
Well, I've got to say, Twitter's been working really well for me, considering I wasn't actually looking for the work on Twitter. It kind of found me. So I'm been very, very fortunate.
Well, I think at this stage in your career, you're at the place where I think just people want to see more and more of your stuff. So I say,
They want to see more. Yeah, they want to see more boobies. That's what they want to see.
well, if that's what makes you happy to paint, feel free. I know that I would love to look through your sketchbooks, and anything that you draw, I think is just such an inspiration to like study. And that's the fun thing for anyone listening. Find people whose I don't know how to put this. Like by looking at your great stuff, I want to do better. So it's really important to follow your favorite artists and study
Oh
and
yeah.
always try to do better. Never be happy
Follow
with your
animators,
style.
and but the thing is, follow animators. I still can find animators have some really really great stuff. But that old school guys, the old Disney guys,
I mean,
yeah.
what was his name? The Batman animated series artist, Bruce Timm, I think his name is.
Yes, yes,
Oh
yeah.
man, I discovered his stuff recently and I've just been like
Only
drooling.
recently.
No, no, I mean I knew
It's
he
such great,
existed.
yeah.
I didn't know the
Oh, like on
library.
social media, yeah.
Oh my
It's
goodness, that guy is so talented. But yeah, like there's so many
well,
different.
if you want your mind blown,
Sure.
um, you need to find Glenn. Well, Glenn Key. I don't think he has any social media though, but his work is phenomenal.
How do I spell that?
Um, Glenn, Glen. Keen is
Oh, Glenn Keane.
Kene.
Yes,
Yes.
he
Oh my
did
gosh.
Lilo and Stitch. No,
No,
he
that's
was.
Chris Sanders. Chris Sanders is also a great one to follow. I love his stuff. I mean,
He
if
did
you
work,
want to see a guy who draws sexy girls that look nothing like actual women, that's the guy for you. And I love his work.
and they've all been fired from Disney.
Pretty
But
much.
oh man, we need to have a revolution where all of us lovers of the old days get together and make something.
Ah,
We can
right?
just give me enough money to eat. I'll do it.
Yeah.
We can make something beautiful.
So what's great with Glen Keane, he did so he animated Aladdin, the character Aladdin,
Okay.
Beast, Tarzan. But it's when you see his rough sketching, his work, and if you can get any like videos, just like interviews and stuff, he's very inspirational. He's a very inspirational artist.
I'm gonna do that immediately after this.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. It's I don't know. I want to ask finally about the future. Like, do you think maybe like I think there's more talented people in our field than ever, but
Yeah.
the market doesn't seem to be catching up. What do you think is the next step for us?
I have no idea. I haven't thought that far ahead, to be honest. The next step will be drawing porn. I'm not going there.
Oh gosh.
But I think the strangest thing I've been asked to draw, I had no idea what it was. It was a message I got on DeviantArt, and I didn't list DeviantArt as a place to see myself because I don't really use it. So a guy asking me if I draw snake peril, I was like, what? I don't even know what he's talking about. So I Google, I'm like, oh no, I don't. Sorry.
Jeez.
So
You know, actually, I've asked another artist about this before. Is I think, or I've heard that a lot of artists who can't make a living otherwise earn side money by doing that sort of thing under pseudonyms, and I think that's
and
so
yeah,
sad. But
it is. But what's crazy is how good a lot of the artwork is. You know, it's like I don't care what anyone's opinions about like furry art or whatever weird stuff's out there. The artwork, it's actually really, really good.
yeah, it's a very strange time for people of our
Yeah.
profession. I've seen. I have seen the kind of work you're talking about, and I'm thinking, like, wait,
Yeah.
they can't get work normally? Like, they can't.
Right?
What kind of
Yeah.
world do we live in where the artists like that have to do? I mean, I'm not commenting on, the actual content, but I think, like, there must be other things that can be sold and marketed using the talents of these amazing people
Yeah.
for mainstream audiences. Whether it's an animated movie or comics or something like that, I find it strange that we can't find work in other ways. But
Yeah.
I guess that's just where we are, and we have to survive. Survive until somebody trailblazes a new market for us, I suppose.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't
It's
know.
like it's weird. It's like I haven't, so I'm nearly like 40 years old, and I'm like, well, Stanley only started drawing comics at 40, so there's hope for me yet.
You know what, though? I mean, honestly, our talents, our field, you can still work well into your 80s as long as your
Yeah.
hand works. I mean, even Charles Schultz.
Well,
Sorry.
no, I was just gonna say that's the thing with like the majority of like Disney animators. They pretty much died at their work desk or busy drawing or something.
Yeah. Because it's not like a sport like basketball or football where you have to
Yeah.
retire at a certain age. You get
Yeah.
better at drawing as you get older, and the only thing that stops you is like if your back breaks. You can't bend over your desk anymore.
Yeah. Well, or you get some wrist injury or something.
Something like that.
I don't know if you follow Adam Warren
I
on
know the name.
Twitter. You should follow him. So he does an annual book every year called Empowered, but he's been in the industry for like, I want to say like 30 years. And he has, as far as like comic art, well, he's a, I want to say he's an American manga artist. And as far as and being in, so and he's a writer as well. So
Oh,
he
I do
writes
follow
and
him.
yeah, so I mean he writes, he illustrates, he letters his own book, everything himself. But he's like such the artist. You know, it's like some of his tweets, it's like, you know, how he spent a day just trying to draw a hand and it still doesn't come right and he'll do it tomorrow. You know, it's like he's extremely relatable. You know, and I'm just like, it's not only me.
Yeah.
I'm not alone.
But I think that's why it's good for us to share our sketches too. As embarrassed as we are,
Yeah.
I would say post it and don't look back.
Yeah. Well, one of my favorite pieces of art is actually something I drew when I was 9 years old. It's actually something someone actually get trained at some point. Was at my school. It was a competition for, I don't know, basically, I think it was like some cleaning product thing that was sponsoring this competition. And the theme was like under the sea or something like that. So I did this A2 size drawing of all these fish and having fun. I just love drawing fun stuff. And I think for the person who won, I think the kid won like 300 Rand. I want to say maybe at the time it was, let's say $50. It wasn't much at all. For a kid, it's a lot. I did 3 drawings. When I found out that I won, they contacted my parents. My dad's like, "Are we getting the drawings back?" They're like, "No." My dad said, "To hell with that."
Oh,
taking
wow.
the drawings, and he's giving me the money. I think the school would win like computers or something. This was like 1989 or something like that. Yeah, my dad was always very adamant on me keeping my own work and my drawings. I mean, I remember the company, they even tried to bribe my parents. They like sent them like this massive hamper of stuff
Jeez.
to bribe them. Yeah.
I really like your dad. He sounds nice.
I like him too. Yeah, my dad's pretty cool. He's always been very, very supportive.
That's so cool. Well, I don't know. I want to talk to you more offline, but I think we've gone a little over an hour and a half. I want to give everyone a break from. I don't know. What I'm trying to say is, I think we should do another episode another time.
Yeah, I'm cool with that.
I think. I don't know. If you look at her stuff, everyone that's listening, it speaks for itself in terms of quality. I hope you'll join me in encouraging her to post anything and everything in those sketchbooks to explore anything that makes her interested. I'm so inspired.
I told you I don't have any sketchbooks. They're just loose pieces of paper all over the place.
Any napkin drawings, anything of yours. I think just.
I'm probably the worst artist. I always see people like, look at my sketchbook, and I'm like, yeah, I just draw on whatever paper I got. However, I will say I'm very picky with what I draw with. I only use animation pencils.
The blue ones?
Blue and the red, yeah. I've become so accustomed to drawing because of the way it feels. It's like I can't draw with regular, I'm going to say gray pencil. It feels too strange to me.
I have to cheat and extend this interview one more minute. What does the blue and red exactly do?
Okay, so so this is for animation. So basically, it's so you can distinguish what you're drawing. So back in the day, they drew on paper with on a light box, and you would draw on a blue pencil. Then the next drawing would normally be like a red pencil. So when you are doing an in between, you can see which drawing is which. So you can distinguish the 2 drawings from each other. So the one drawing is blue and the one is red. Does that make sense?
Oh.
If they're both gray, let's say they were both drawings were gray, you're just going to see a bunch of lines. So in software like TV Paint, you get the same thing, blue and red pencils to work with. But in let's say the onion skin, you want to see your frames before and after, you can actually choose to change the colors. So the previous drawings are blue, and then the drawings that follow is red. So when you do your in-betweens, you can distinguish which is which drawing.
Okay.
And you don't just see a bunch of lines.
I've always wondered that. Yeah, I've seen a lot of, I guess, before there were cells, right? Cellophane. Before they were painted in with actual paint and ink. I would look at. Okay, I thought it was some kind of coding for like this is where the, I don't know, this is where the shadow goes or something like that. When I see red.
They do that in cleanup. They use like red in cleanup as well to denote like shadow and light and that kind of stuff as well.
Ah.
But as far as like rough animation goes, it's just so you can see what. It just makes it easier for in betweening. Otherwise you just see a bunch of lines and it gets very, very complicated.
That's true.
Because sometimes you don't. So, let's say you're working towards the red drawing. So when you're tweening, the movement must go towards what's in the red drawing. If that makes sense, I don't know how to explain that.
I think it does make sense. If anyone's
it depends on the motion. Because you could accidentally have your motion going the wrong way. It's
yeah.
I might have to show you on video or something at some point.
Well, one of the things I want to talk to you for next time is regarding animation. So I think we'll do another episode sometime when and if we're ready to animate something, and we can show that off to everybody. But I share your passion for animation absolutely. I started off with Disney as well. I remember distinctly. I have to end this. I'm so sorry for going on longer.
It's fine.
At the very beginning of the VHS tapes, for a lot of Disney movies, they would have like sort of making ofs. And I watched a guy he had 5 papers in his hand between his fingers, and he would flip between them and he would show like, and I would watch that and I say, that's what I'm going to do. And then I asked my mom, how do I do that?
And she's like, you don't.
She didn't know. Nobody knew. Like, it was such a heartbreaking reality of like where I grew up and the people I knew, I guess, is that we had no idea how to do that as a job. So I just had a normal.
At least you're in the country where you could actually do it, unlike myself.
Yeah, I have no excuses. I just
not even close to that.
Well, I guess if it was meant to be like it is, we're still doing it. We just approached it through different paths than usual.
Yeah.
But anyway. It's clear that you're a very passionate artist, and anyone that looks at your stuff will see that. And I encourage everyone listening, if you haven't already, to give her a follow. And yeah, I hope that whatever we're talking about for next time, I hope it comes to be. I don't know how it's going to come to be, but it'll be a beautiful and wonderful thing. And yeah, I just love art. I could tell that you love art, and the world needs more of your stuff, I would say.
Thank you.
So that's all I've got to say on that. Real quick, I'll wrap up and I want to say bye to you. Anyone listening, we did an illustration together, or Sashi did an illustration for Mary Sue, and I'll have links in the bottom of the description. You can buy those prints, and all the money that goes into that will hopefully, if she's available, be the next commission from her. So we'll have more art from her if she's willing. So feel free to buy a poster. The quality's amazing, and I can send those to you, and you can have it for your wall or whatever, and you'll be supporting a great artist. So feel free to do that. Thanks for listening. Thanks for coming, Sashi.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. And I hope we all get to hear from you again soon. So I'll say bye for now, and let's see.